Hello, welcome to the interview here on France 24. What would you do if? Would you be an accomplice or a resistance fighter? Now, when it comes to the 20th century's worst horrors, the Holocaust or the Rwanda genocide, too many people said nothing, did nothing. But my guest today believes there's nothing inevitable about human beings acting barbaric. Alain Chouraqui is the research director at France's National Center for Scientific Research, and he's also a founding president of the Camp des Mille Foundation. It takes its name from the World War II internment camp from where some 2,000 Jews were deported to the Auschwitz death camp, many of them never to return. And he's editor of a new book, which is the reason he's here today. In French, it's called Pour résister, loosely translated, How to Resist. It's published by Cherche Midi. It draws on the lessons of past atrocities in the hope of preventing future crimes. And he says that it is urgent in an age where we have terror, political instability, economic crisis that threaten to unleash darker forces of racism, anti-Semitism, and extremism. Welcome to our studios. Your book has a very simple idea behind it. Barbarity is not inevitable. Man can learn from history, and he can do something about it to prevent the same crimes from happening again.
Yes. What history shows is basically that man is able to do atrocities, but he is also able to stop them, to avoid them, if he got the best from these lessons from the past, if he is able to understand these lessons, and especially if he sees that in the past, in every genocide, during the Holocaust, but also during the genocide in Rwanda or in Armenia, we see many people able to act, to resist, to help other people, and able to be efficient against the spiral of violence, of barbarism, against any people.
To actually resist and save lives. I want to actually show our viewers one example from your book. There's a photo in the book, very, very striking photo. Perhaps we could show it. It shows a man. This scene is at a naval shipyard in Hamburg, Germany. The year is 1936. Not yet World War II. Hitler is obviously already 3 years as a chancellor. You see everyone around him, all his fellow workers are saluting the Hitler salute. He's not. His arms are crossed. It's a provocative move. How come there's only one person resisting? Just one in an entire crowd?
Yes, but we are still now speaking about him. That means that a symbolic action like his action may be efficient, maybe impressive, and we know that this action has an impact on his fellow workers, you know. So there are many ways of resisting, by culture, by creation, by symbolic actions, with weapons, but also with natural help to help people to hide themselves, to eat if they are in difficulty, and so on.
But hasn't the pattern throughout history, and I'm sorry if it sounds cynical of me to ask, hasn't the pattern been that people tend to be cowards? They tend to be indifferent in the face of human atrocities?
Usually, in the past, atrocities don't come alone. That means it is in a framework of crisis, of problems for many people. So many people have other problems to manage with, you know. So it's easy to be a coward and to look elsewhere when atrocities happen. It's easy. But what is important to see is that even if these people try not to look at the atrocities, at the very end, the atrocities come to them. That means by many circles, larger and larger, we can see that the first targets become...
Ultimately, it is going to affect them if they do...
including the people who think that they are not concerned by that, you know. And also we can say that if we take lessons from the past, we know that if we react, if we resist early in the process, it's much more easy and much more efficient.
To get the momentum. This is central to your book. Your book is not just a history lesson. It's not just about the Holocaust. It's not just about the Armenian genocide, the Rwanda genocide. You have a 3-step process for learning history and then doing something to prevent it happening again. What is that? Could you tell us those 3 steps?
Yeah. The first step is clearly the ground in every society. The fear of the other, the various interests are legitimate, you know. It's normal that people are different, you know. And democracy is made to combine all these differences without war. But when the crisis is too important, when democracy fails, at this moment a spiral may come and may lead very quickly, even if the actors don't want the further steps of the spiral, may lead to the worst, to the crimes, you know. And the second step is a step of aggressivity against some groups, a step where acting minorities prevail, and the majority is passive, you know.
Can I stop you at the second step?
Yeah.
Are we not seeing the second step slowly happening now in Europe? What about the immigrants we see coming to the shores of Greece and Italy? What about the Roma population in certain countries, especially in Hungary, in Europe? Are we seeing that aggressivity, that second step happening right now?
It's happening against Roma, against immigrants, against Jews. The violence against Jews in Europe are more important, more numerous than ever. And the opinion about Muslims are worse and worse. So racism against Muslims is more and more important in our countries. So it's a very difficult problem today. It's the reason why we have issued this book, because we do think that the problem is today in Europe, and not only in Europe. Racism exists everywhere and kills everywhere. And we know that racism is a kind of regression. That means racism is a way to hide the true problems, economical, social, cultural problems. And it's a way of bringing passion in processes in which rational would be and reason would be the best tool, you know.
And yet, as you tell me this, we are in parallel seeing the rise of far-right groups across Europe. Yeah. Wherever you look, one of them is making the other situation worse, I would assume.
All the extreme movements from every part of the societies feed each other, you know. And the rise of extremists, and especially extreme right, is clearly a sign of fear, of aggressivity in society, of danger for democracy. Democracy is in danger when passion, rejection of the other, is able to dominate the scene, right. to be at the first level of each discussion and political debate, and that could lead very quickly to mass murders.
To something worse, which is the third step, which is where everything
exactly
totally goes
when a power is based on racism, it may lead very quickly to camps, to
what we've seen in history. It's what we would call a slippery slope. In the little time we have left, Alain Chouraqui, another photo I want to show people from the book. Charlie Chaplin, obviously one of the most famous actors of the 20th century, he was in a film, The Dictator, Very famous role. The Dictator was from 1940. Maybe we could show our viewers. There's the picture now. And obviously it was based on the Nazi regime. It was a satire of Hitler. But it did help mobilize American opinion against the Nazi regime, against the war. We know how that turned out. Do you see a role for satire in fighting these trends?
Very efficient, symbolically, resistant by art and creation, and by irony and smile, you know, because he understood that the Germans were blind in front of this incredible phenomenon. A brown guy leading a nation in the name of the Aryan race.
The Aryan nation, the Aryan race. We've run out of time, Alain Chouraqui, but I get your final point that satire can be a powerful weapon. You also believe that learning history, using history, can be a very powerful weapon. Teaching is a powerful weapon, exactly. And then acting on that teaching. Alain Chouraqui, the head of the research director, CNRS, and also the editor of a new book, Pour résister, How to Resist, trying to draw on the past to help us avoid crimes in the future. Thanks for being our guest today. A very accessible, a very readable book, I may add.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for watching the interview here on France 24.